My brothers and sisters, the devil's inside the Switch!
Diablo 3's coming to the Switch.
Hot take!
So it's official, Diablo 3 Eternal Collection is coming to the Nintendo Switch, and it had been teased months ago, as many people were thinking, oh, you know, Blizzard tweeted out an image, I think it was of a nightlight that they were switching on and off, that was the Diablo head, and people were like, okay, is it coming to the Switch, is it not? Well, it is. And it's
cool.
jam-packed. Diablo 3 Eternal Collection is the original game with the Reaper of Souls expansion, adventure mode, and a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, I don't want to read off.
I have to imagine everything that's in the latest version of the game is in this release.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in seeing this, but to be fair, folks, for me, Diablo has always been a game I play on PC.
Yeah.
I do know there's a lot of you out there that played it on the PlayStation. Good for you.
I played it on the PlayStation 4, and you know, cutting you off a little bit, but the consoleized versions of this game were really, really well done. When
Absolutely,
when I did play it on the PS4, it was the Reaper of Souls edition. I think was the last one released on the PS4, and yeah, they optimized the controller in a very good way to like basically make the game feel like it was made specifically for consoles. Even though like you, when I thought of Diablo before that, I thought PC.
Sure. So it's not like this is out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Now that we know there is a PlayStation version, everyone's played it, you've played it.
Yeah.
So that is probably likely the idea of what the game's going to play like on the Switch. Do we know if they're going to be using touch controls in any way?
I don't... No. Touch controls were the one thing that they weren't going to use, but they did say that because the Switch is like... configurable in many different ways because of the Joy-Con and, you know, the Joy-Con grip and the Pro Controller. They're integrating all control settings into all everything. So
cool.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty exciting. So undocked, it'll be 720p. Docked, it'll be at 960p. And they say that it plays wonderfully in both modes, and you can't really notice a difference between the two.
Sure. I mean, that's fine. Now, I'm kind of interested in the idea that Blizzard is willing to work on games on the Switch. Now, it's funny because it's not like Blizzard has a gigantic library they can pull off and put onto the Switch, because there's really not a lot of games there that have been kind of focused on console.
Quality over quantity.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. I agree. I think the thing that most interests me about this, and apparently a lot of other people out there agree, is that if they're willing to get Diablo 3 to work on the Switch, which is a crazy pull, by the way, that's a very strange game to get on the Switch, then likely they're probably a bit of a conversation about Overwatch coming back.
Right. So there was an interview on GameSpot. There was an interview with senior producer Pete Stillwell, who is one of the folks responsible for bringing this to the Switch. And in the interview, he was asked, like, yeah, that's awesome, you know, Diablo's coming, but what else, right? Like, what other doors are opening here? So the question about Overwatch kind of popped up, and where in the past, folks at Blizzard have basically said, like, no. Yeah,
that's what they said.
Overwatch won't come to the Switch because we feel that it's underpowered. Now, Pete Stillwell said that being able to take Diablo and put it on the Switch, they were able to look at the guts a little more, get used to the system itself, and they're kind of leaning more towards, it's a possibility that Overwatch could come to it. But he kind of put his hands in the air and said, that's not my problem, though.
Yeah.
That's not my team. There's another team that works on Overwatch. Are they going to do it? Who knows?
See, Diablo 3 is a much older game compared to Overwatch. Overwatch is a newer release, new-ish release.
Yeah.
It is more graphically demanding. It has a lot more going into it.
Yeah.
And I think the initial reason, probably one of the bigger reasons, and one they didn't really mention too much, why Overwatch didn't come out to the Switch initially, is mostly because, hey, it's multiplayer. Multiplayer is such a big deal with Overwatch, and I think that Diablo 3 can be a single-player experience, you know? And you can enjoy it that way.
Right. It can be single-player, and they're making it very easy to do multiplayer online, but as well, like, couch co-op is a huge thing that you can do with it on the Switch. So there's a lot of different variations to the gameplay. There is multiplayer, but it's not focused only on, like, a Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah.
Whereas with Overwatch, most likely you would need some sort of...
You would, yeah.
I mean, it is a multiplayer game. You said it yourself. Diablo can be kind of a single-player experience.
Yeah.
Overwatch cannot.
Overwatch doesn't have like a single-player experience you can go into, and I think that's one of the big limiting factors on this. I mean, look, there is obviously the chance they can get it to work on there. Now, I am just going to say this. I am not somebody that has worked with Blizzard in the past. I don't know their internal structure. I am not a game developer myself. They got Doom on the Switch.
Not well, Doom and an upcoming Doom.
Yeah,
as well. Doom Eternal.
Doom Eternal's coming on the Switch. If you can get Doom and Doom Eternal on the Switch, the argument that you can't get Overwatch on there doesn't make sense from a power perspective. Yes, the game will look a little bit lower down in quality, but the beautiful thing about Overwatch is it has a cartoony look to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So Doom has more of a realistic look, and they had to lower that down. You could definitely, in my mind, I think, get that game to work on there, unless the folks at id made a way better engine than anyone's giving them credit for. But I really believe that it has a lot to do with the multiplayer. At the time that they were asked about that initially, they just didn't have an online service that was ready to be talked about.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe Paladins is already released on the Switch, or will be released, and Paladins was like an Overwatch Lite.
Jeez. Anybody remember Paladins? That was like a hot minute.
Anyway,
I have that. I don't even remember. I have that game, and I didn't even remember I had it until just now.
It was an Overwatch-like game, and it like scaled down, I guess. And if you can take Overwatch and scale that down, I almost feel like Overwatch on the Switch would be one of those games that would like breathe a bit of a second life into the game, maybe compete with some of the bigger games out there, some of the Battle Royale games that are out there right now, if Overwatch became a thing on the Switch. But I'm still very much worried, like we discussed, about the Wi-Fi access of this thing. If you're playing in your house, hey, it's cool. If you're playing in your buddy's house, fine. If you're outside at your friend's garden party or at the park, you're not going to be playing Overwatch unless there's like some fantastic Wi-Fi connection that you somehow...
Because I know most of you go out there and actually have garden parties with your friends.
Man, box socials are a thing. Man, get used to it.
Look, I just really feel that when it comes to Overwatch, it's just a game that really is multiplayer focused. And I think you're right. Taking it on the bus and then not having internet access kind of sucks. I think the exact same problem existed with... Rocket League on the Switch, right? Rocket League, you have to be around an internet connection to really play that. There is a single-player aspect to it that you can play, but it's just kind of a one-off thing.
And Rocket League did sell fairly well on the Switch.
Yeah, it did.
It did do rather well. So who knows? It could be fine. But I look at other shooters that have been released on the Switch, like Splatoon 2, and yeah, multiplayer is huge on it, yada yada, but it also had that single-player campaign that kind of drew you in, even if you couldn't always have that multiplayer angle.
You know, I honestly think that there should be some kind of... It's not even that at the point that we're really trying to question this stuff anymore, because we know Fortnite is on the Switch, and Fortnite is multiplayer focused. It only can be played online.
That's true.
So if they're finding a success with it, and we don't know their numbers. I mean, it's all download, it's free.
Right.
But I honestly think that Blizzard has a better case study now to go, okay, look, they did it, so we could do it too.
Well, maybe that's what Diablo 3 is. Maybe if this sells like hotcakes, we're going to be seeing some other Blizzard games. Could you imagine another title besides Diablo and Overwatch coming to this thing? No.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate.
I said one. I would go crazy if, like, out of nowhere, they're just like, hey, we remastered Warcraft 3 and it's on the Switch. I'd be like, what? With, like, touch controls and stuff.
3 Vikings? You know, I mean, like...
Rock and roll racing?
Yeah, like, you know, you're going... The problem is with Blizzard...
Blackthorn? Are they Blackthorn?
Blackthorn, that's one, yeah. There are just so many older games they made, but it's like, it's basically a handful.
Yeah.
Primarily, the biggest games they ever produced for a long time, there was RTS-type games.
That's true.
Maybe... I don't even think you would do this, but a lot of their games had a PC focus as well, so you really wouldn't see World of Warcraft go to a console. You really wouldn't see any of those games, and I feel like the way that you'd have to change those mechanics to make them work...
Yeah, that's one big thing.
I would actually be excited to see StarCraft 64 brought to the Switch with a widescreen patch.
Yeah.
Just as like a fun little thing.
It could be. It could be maybe like a download thing on their eShop.
Yeah.
That's not an eShop. Well, one thing's for sure, though. When we look at what's happening right now with Blizzard and Nintendo, it's pretty big because Blizzard hasn't been working with Nintendo in a long time. It's been like a decade and a half since they've actually had a Blizzard game on a Nintendo platform. So no matter where this leads, at least Blizzard and Nintendo are having conversations, and Blizzard's looking at the system and seeing what they can do with it.
And maybe the next game that Blizzard does will actually have a release on the Switch as well. But that big gap of
StarCraft
power...
Ghost?
Yeah! I forgot about
that Warcraft point-and-click adventure.
Folks, what do you think? Are you excited about having this happen? Or are you like, when you think of the Switch, you're like, I had to play Diablo on that? I'm just curious what you guys have to say. Let us know.